This last week for us as Jews, I think, can best be described in the famous words of Charles Dickens, opening his novel, A Tale of Two Cities, where he said, "It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. It was the season of light, the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope and the winter of despair." So much good and so much bad. We all know what a terrible week it was, with the worst anti-Semitic act in American Jewish history, with what happened in Pittsburgh, the terrible scenes, the horrific crime, the funerals throughout this week. What a horrific week for the Jewish people. On the other hand, for the first time, Israel was acknowledged in the European Judo Championships in Abu Dhabi, in the Gulf states, with the playing of Hatikva for the first time, with Israel's Minister of Sport and Culture literally crying her eyes out, 2 gold medals. And for the first time, Hatikva played, the Israeli flag displayed in these countries on a national level. Acceptance in a region where there's been so much resistance to normality, and accepting the Jewish people as part of the family of nations. So it seems to be in life so often. There is so much good and so much bad happening at exactly the same time. I believe that this is at the core of the beginning of this week's parsha. We find the most unusual event of Abraham having to bury Sarah. What is so unusual about this, so difficult, says this, that Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the Rishonim, says that this is the 10th of the 10 tests of Abraham. Most of our medieval commentators in the Midrashim say that the 10th and final and most difficult of the 10 tests that Abraham was tested by was in fact Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. But Rabbeinu Yonah says no. He says the most difficult of all of Abraham's tests was in this week's parasha. After all, on the one hand, it was the best of times. Avraham Avinu, single-handedly chosen by God, asked to walk the length and breadth of the land, and every part of this land I will give to you, says God, time and time again to Abraham. Yet, when Abraham's wife dies and he comes to bury her, he realizes he does not legally own one part, any part of this land. The great promise that Abraham has been promised will take many, many years, generations to be fulfilled. He cannot even find a plot of land that he owns to bury his wife. I hope and pray is that so often the best of times are coupled with the most difficult times. There's so much good and bad happening together, so much promise in life, yet often so much time until it is fulfilled. We hope and pray that this week of so terrible on the one hand, yet so invigorating and full of hope on the other for Israel and its sense of normalization in an area where anti-Semitic underpinnings have been felt. We hope and pray that the anti-Semitism, the scourge of so much bad in the world, is finally removed, and only normalization, acceptance, hope, and unity, please God, will be felt by the Jewish people and indeed all of humanity. Shabbat Shalom.